Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at another lengthy Shakespeare poem, The Rape of Lucrece. This one was published the year after Venus and Adonis. Both of them are, interestingly, poems that Shakespeare had a hand in publishing. He was very involved in the publication process, unlike with his plays. And both of them are written to and dedicated to a patron, Henry Wriothesley, the Earl of Southampton. I'm going to talk more about Shakespeare and publication in another video, so I'll put that aside for now. But I will say that the previous poem, Venus and Adonis, has often been looked at as the lighter of the two, whereas this poem, The Rape of Lucrece, is heavier in content, in topic, and in the complexity of the ideas. Shakespeare, in the preface and dedication of Venus and Adonis, mentions planning to do some graver labor, something heavier coming. And where Venus and Adonis was full of flirtiness and even comic moments, The Rape of Lucrece is very weighty and heavy. It is, as the title suggests, about a rape. And like Venus and Adonis, it is taken originally from a myth. The original story is a founding Roman myth about the beginning of a republic. The Tarquins were the kings of Rome, and one day the Prince Tarquin comes and raped the wife of one of his close friends, Lucretia, or Lucrece. Her husband, Colleton, had been bragging about her chastity and her beauty, and Tarquin, in response to this, is inflamed with lust. After the rape, Lucrece tells her husband and her father and the rest of her family about the violation, and then she commits suicide. At the horror of what has been done to her, they all revolt and rise up against the kings and banish them, and so begins the Republic. There's a lot of political overtones to the original myth, but Shakespeare steps aside from all of those. He also steps aside from the majority of the actual action. The scene between Colleton and Tarquin at the beginning, where Colleton praises Lucrece and fires up Tarquin's blood, is absent from this poem, as is the final revolt and overthrow. Those things are merely hinted at as about to happen at the end of the poem. Instead, the poem focuses mostly on the inner monologues of the characters. It begins with Tarquin going to visit Lucrece, who innocently thinks that her husband's friend has come to bring her news of her husband. And then it explores Tarquin's inner debate, wrestling with these monstrous passions and desires that are overtaking him against his own honor and his friendship and his loyalty and all the other things that should be there. Although he knows throughout this that it's not worth the cost, he still ultimately lets his lust drive him to destruction. There is the moment when he takes Lucrece and tells her what's going to happen, and tries to force her to comply with him, saying that if she doesn't, he will kill both her and some servant in the house and put them together to stage something to ruin her honor. But Lucrece is as good as she is beautiful, and she never capitulates into him. Ultimately, however, we have the post-scene, which is the inner turmoil of Lucrece. And this is where the real potency of the poem lies. Lucrece's struggle with her own feelings of guilt in response to an act that was done to her is incredibly potent and heartbreaking. Although the argument is very clear that she did nothing wrong, in fact that she fought against the wrong as hard as she could, there's still that sense of guilt. She has not only had something taken away from her, but she also erroneously feels the responsibility for it. Although Shakespeare, as well as Lucrece's husband and father, make it clear that her will was in the right place, therefore she is completely exonerated and pure. She cannot help feel the weight of this. Although her husband and father will not blame her, Tarquin does do a bit of victim shaming. He says that it was her beauty that drives him to this. My favorite aspects of this poem are the deep psychological bits. There's also this fantastic section where, after deciding to commit suicide, Lucrece looks at a painting and examines this painting of the fall of Troy. And here in this picture of the fall of Troy, there is destruction and disaster all around, and all these people are suffering, and she feels their suffering, showing us the way that art can reflect and enhance our own feelings. She deeply relates to Hecuba as she watches Hecuba see her husband die, the Queen of Troy. There's also the significant detail that all of the destruction of Troy comes from Paris's lust, how he chased after Helen, and in so doing brought this army of destruction down upon their heads. This poem clearly demonstrates the way that these unchecked desires and passions lead to destruction for everybody involved. Immediately after the event, the poem says, "But she hath lost a dearer thing than life, and he hath won what he would lose again. This forced league doth force a further strife. This momentary joy breeds months of pain. This hot desire converts to cold disdain. Pure chastity is rifled from her store, and lust, the thief, far poorer than before." Feeding this kind of hunger and desire only destroys the other person, as well as leaving you emptier than you were before. Tarquin's friendship with Collatine is destroyed, Lucrece is destroyed, and Tarquin's whole family is destroyed through this. And yet, even though those outer consequences are significant and important, the examination of the psychology and insight of Lucrece is what really makes this poem powerful. It's a poem that is just as relevant today as it has ever been. Sexual abuse and rape are not things that can ever be excused or brushed under the rug. There's no truly hiding from them. No matter how many layers under they're buried, the psychological scars and damage are there. Something this poem explores in intense and powerful ways. If you're interested in Shakespeare's treatment here, I also recommend looking over at Cymbeline, one of my favorite of Shakespeare's plays, that uses some similar elements. Although a very painful poem, it's rich and deep and powerful. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time as I talk a little bit more about Shakespeare's publication process. Take care. Bye-bye.